Okay, my friends, here it is. The video that is going to explain to you the number one reason that big gardens fail and what to do about it. So, we're going to say some philosophy about it here, and then I will take you into the field and show you exact examples of what I am talking about. So, let us suppose that you've had some success the past couple of years with gardening, and you've grown some things and it's turned out good. So, you want to expand your horizons now, and you want to grow mostly all your own food. And so, you do it in a typical way where you would till up the earth and you would plant your row crops and you would have bare soil in between or something similar like that. And you plant everything, you plant your transplants, and then very soon you will realize that this garden is going to take a tremendous amount of effort in order to keep it clear of the weeds. Yes, my friends, as you will see throughout this video, the number one issue is that people underestimate how severe the weed pressure can be on a larger scale. So there's essentially the two types. There's the small home garden, and then there's like the big food security garden. The small home garden is, some tomatoes and peppers and stuff. And yeah, you can pull weeds, no problem. Most people love being outside and in their garden and pulling a few weeds. That's how mine is here. I can pull the weeds here. It's manageable. But as soon as you go to even approaching like a commercial scale or anything like that, even food security scale, what I'm calling food security, you have to have a plan in place to deal with the weeds, because that is the number one issue I see when I go to people's place and I do the garden rehabs or I do the consultations through Zoom and they're showing me their gardens and stuff, and it's always totally overrun with weeds. And once that happens, it totally breaks the spirit of the gardener. So that's why I'm making this video, so that this upcoming year you can have a plan in place, because you do not want the broken spirit of the gardener. Because so many of the gardens are just left, it's just so much. Because you realize that to plant things in a traditional way like that, you are going to be spending hours each day maybe, but definitely hours each week just pulling weeds, just hoeing and things like that. And the plants that we grow for vegetables do not grow well in the competition of weeds. But first, let us understand, what are weeds really? Well, if we had a nice thriving forest right here and we bulldozed half of it until it was just plain clean earth, what would happen is that so nature never wants open, bare soil like that. Nature always wants it covered and thriving with life, if the climate in that area can sustain it. And so it is going to immediately send in the infantry. The very first ground troops are going to be the weeds, because they are going to go in to that spot, that bare earth, and they are going to send down roots deep into the earth and mine the minerals and then deposit them on the surface as they die. And so after a number of years of this, then the soil becomes fertile again, and the perennial shrubs and things can move in after some years of that. Then the trees will move in like that. And so the weeds are the first line of recovery. They're like nature's Band-Aid. And so for that reason, they have been designed to be very difficult to get rid of, because they are there for a purpose in the natural cycle of things. And so when we take that philosophy into our garden, it's okay to allow some weeds, not a problem. But when you approach the scale of even remotely commercial or food security, you have to have this plan in place, because they will overtake everything and drown out your food crops. So using some of the footage from the trip to Tennessee, let me show you guys some examples of what I am talking about. Okay, my friends, so let us suppose that you want to expand your garden because you want to grow what I call a food security garden, which is meaning that you are growing most of your own food. So you till up a big plot of land, much bigger than you've done before, where you're going to plant all of your squash and corn and potatoes and beans and tomatoes and everything. You add a little cow manure, some horse manure, and you till it all in there. Now, this is what a typical garden looks like when they start a big plot. It's tilled up earth. And then you plant your tomatoes and cucumbers, all the good stuff, you plant it into there. But then, several months later, here's the exact same garden plot, because life has happened. And you can see here, as evident, that this family has become totally overwhelmed with this garden. And by the time it gets to this point, it's going to be a major problem to try and recover from this, because everything has gone to seed. And so from now until the end of eternity, you will have weeds trying to pop up in this soil. So you have to come up with something in order to mitigate this. The reason that's so important is because the things that we grow as vegetables, they do not thrive in competition with other things. They're not competitive. All of these weeds are native weeds, and so they have the home field advantage. And so for that reason, we need to keep the weed pressure down. And even, look guys, pay attention. This is why I say do not put anything on top of your landscaping fabric, because this was positioned in a way that allowed soil to gather on top of it. And if you put soil or mulch on top of the landscaping fabric, things can grow down through it, no problem. You will have weeds all over the place, and it will be a nightmare to try and get up. So for that reason, never put anything on top of the landscaping fabric. Now, we are going to mow this all down because we don't have time to sit there and pull all of the weeds. I mean, obviously, that's why it looks like this in the first place. So step number 1 is we are just going to mow down all these weeds. But remember, from now till the end of time, you are going to have weed seeds in that soil trying to come up. So we have to come up with a plan in order to combat against that. Now, there's all different kinds of things you can use. You can use cardboard, lots of cardboard. I mean, it'd take a lot of cardboard for something this size. Or you can use this landscaping fabric designed in such a way, orchestrated in a way that it's not going to get soil on top of it. So here we're using landscaping fabric, but then we also have some old used conveyor belt from a coal mine. Now, maybe that's not absolutely ideal, but it's what we have available. And so we're going to use this to lay out in the aisleways. And we're going to use that also to hold down the landscaping fabric. And this is going to be a pretty much permanent structure as far as these mats. These are very heavy, and that's going to keep everything from growing up in the middle of it. And that is what we want. That's what we need. The things you learn by doing it. Okay, so by now I know a lot of you are saying, oh, well, that's overkill. Why don't you just get out there and pull some weeds? I like pulling weeds. Yes, I understand that, my friend. I understand that you have the best of intentions, but guess what? It just doesn't work that way, because there are 3 garden plots this size on this property, and it can be totally exhausting. And so do not underestimate the power of the weeds to overtake. And so for that reason, you have to have a plan in place. Now, for doing 3 plots this size, it would take an unreasonable amount of organic matter, like leaves or straw or grass clippings or whatever, or cardboard. It'd be totally absurd amount. So for us, we use the landscaping fabric and the coal mine conveyor belt. Also, one of the plots has plastic on it. It's not for everyone, but the point is to use what is available and use what works. Because the point above all is that you have to have a plan in place for success. So I wish you success. So that's pretty much it, my friends. If you feel like you gained something from the video, give it a thumbs up and share the video with anyone who needs this knowledge. Also, share your thoughts. First thing that comes to mind, just put it in the comments. And check out the links in the description, all kinds of good stuff. And we have a live Q&A every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time right here. So bring all your garden related questions and I will see you there, my friends. Oh, and look out for the next video, which is going to be how to have a weed free watermelon and squash patch.